Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about providing water to your chickens, ducks, and other farm animals throughout the winter. Okay. Problem with watering these animals through the winter is that water freezes. Okay, it will freeze both in the in the holding tank, right? Like over here, I got a kiddie pool that holds the water for them. But also, if you're trying to run a garden hose out to your animals, that's also going to freeze up. I tried getting a heated garden hose, and that was giving me all sorts of problems. The hose was still freezing up. So the heated garden hose is generally not a good idea. And the thing is, even if you do get it to work, you still have to heat the tank where you keep the water in. Otherwise, that's just gonna freeze up. Okay, so a solution that I came up with and works really great is basically, first of all, use a large kiddie pool. Right, don't use the small ones like you see in the back over there, because they're just gonna drink up that water really fast, and you're gonna have the problem having to refill the tank up. So it's best to just use a big kiddie pool like the one I have there. And then what I do is I use a heater, all right, to keep it warm. Now there's two types of heaters that I use, both a small one and a big one. Um, right now I got the small one in there. Yeah, I think this one is about 60 watts, right? It's warm. I can feel it right now. It's about 60 watts. Right now we're in mid-November. The temperature at night goes to, it does go below freezing, but it usually goes maybe 30, 28, so it doesn't get that cold. So the small one like this will keep this tank, from freezing, as long as it stays above 25, okay? Once it gets below 25, this is only going to basically keep the water from freezing in a really small area. So you got the whole tank over there, and you're gonna have maybe a spot about this big that they're gonna be able to access. And if the temperature gets down to about like -5, -10, the top's gonna freeze over completely, and they're not even gonna be able to access that. So when the temperature starts dropping into the teens, all right, basically what I do is I switch out to a bigger one. Okay, this is a 250 watt one. Okay, now the question becomes, why don't I just put the big one in there? Well, obviously this uses a lot more electricity. These things are supposed to have a thermostat. They're supposed to shut off automatically. That doesn't always work so good. So for example, right now the temperature is 40 degrees. There's no way, this water is not going to freeze up when it's 40 degrees outside. Yet when I hold this thing, it's still pretty warm. That means electricity is still running through this thing. So unless you're gonna keep plugging it, unplugging it, it's just not worth the trouble. It just makes more sense to use the smaller one, right? That's gonna will prevent this from freezing up overnight. And then once I see the temperature start dropping into the teens, I'm gonna switch out to the bigger one over here. Okay. Now, one of the things to be aware of is, because like I said, even though these things have a thermostat, they're supposed to shut off automatically. That doesn't always work so good. So very typical in the wintertime, especially as the temperatures start dropping, you're going to start seeing like steam coming out of there. And you might be like, oh my God, I'm like going to boil my chickens, right? Well, it doesn't get that hot. But if it's like 17 degrees outside or 10 degrees outside and that water is about 50 degrees, yeah, you're going to see steam coming off of it, just because the water is a lot warmer than the outside temperature. However, that steam is an indication of evaporation, okay? It's still warm enough that water is going to start evaporating, and that's the reason why I use the big kiddie pool and not the small ones, because one of the things I did try using the small ones that you see back there. I don't know, they're only about 3 feet, I think, in diameter. And with the small ones, yeah, I was able to keep that from freezing throughout the whole winter with just the small one that you see here. The problem with that was that the water would just evaporate, right? So within a week or so, those things would be dry, and then I would have a problem of trying to get water out here. Just like these things freeze over here, your water hoses are going to freeze throughout the winter. So don't expect to be able to run a water hose throughout the winter and leave it outside. Your water hoses are going to freeze up. I mean, I've tried the heated water hoses, they don't work that well. Okay, they still freeze. They certainly freeze up at the nozzles. Okay, but the one I got was just not working very good. I ended up just returning that, gave my money back. They're also they're a lot more expensive than these things. Okay, now these things aren't cheap. I think the small ones are about $30. The big one that you see here is about $60. You're gonna need both, right? If you're gonna use a large kiddie pool like this, and your temperatures go down, into the teens and even lower into the single digits, you're definitely gonna need the big one. You're also gonna want the small one, because that big one, what's gonna happen is it's gonna use up a lot of the electricity. It's gonna drive up your electric bill. But also, if the temperatures get, let's say, get up to about 30 degrees, the big one's also going to start evaporating the water fast. Okay, so you don't want to use the big one until you really need to use the big one. Okay? So this is a solution that's worked. I've been using this for about 5 years. All right, just using a kiddie pool, and that's how I water my chickens. If the water does start to get low, what I will typically do is at some point, throughout the winter, it snows. Right, so I just use the tractor. I use the bucket to just drop snow in there, and then the heaters just melt the snow. That's how I resupply the water throughout the wintertime as it starts getting low. I just throw snow in there and let it melt it. That's the easiest, most efficient way to do it. Especially, I gotta plow the snow out of this area anyway, so I can access the coop. So while I'm picking up snow, just throw some snow in there. So you kind of take care of two problems, in one motion, right? Now, one of the things to be aware of, if you're going to have a big kiddie pool like this, what you're going to want to do, I got one over here so you guys can see it, install one of these bulkhead, I think they're called bulkheads. Get a Tractor Supply, I think, or Lowe's, they're about $10. And what you do is you cut a hole into the side of that, and it's a bulkhead, it squeezes on, and then there's a thing here that you unscrew, which is kind of stuck now. I got to use the pliers. Get a pair of pliers. These are great pliers. If you ever get a chance to get these pliers, just because if you look at this design, there's enough space there that even if these rust, they will work. So these I pretty much just keep outdoors on top of the coop. I've had them out there for, I don't know, about 3 years now, and it's still workable. If you use anything else, they typically will rust up on you so that they're not usable. So this is the bulkhead that I install in my kiddie pools, okay, right? And what that does is it basically allows you to drain the water out, because with a pool that size, you can't just lift it up and flip it over. So what you gotta do is, if you don't have one of these, you pretty much gotta use like a sunk pump, a pump to pump the water out, right? So that's the other option. It's just a lot easier to install one of these in it. It's $10 to do it one time, and then eventually your kiddie pool is gonna crack. It's not gonna become usable. You just pull out the bulkhead, just put it into the new one. Okay, so yeah, that's how I water my chickens throughout the summer. Now let's take while I got you guys here, a quick look at the coop. Basically just plain plywood. One of the most common questions is, how do you keep your chickens warm throughout the winter? I mean, chicks do need a heating lamp, right? If they don't have feathers, they do need a heating source, right? But once they got their feathers, chicks, do not need chickens rather do not need heat. What you just gotta do is basically give them shelter, right? So in this case, I got the coop over here, all right. And by the way, you can see the rope there with the sliding door that goes all the way to the house, so I can, which is 100 feet away. So the coop is far enough away that I can, I don't have to smell the chicken poop in my house, but close enough that I can run a rope and 100-foot extension cords back and forth. But anyway, what I was saying about heating up chickens, the rule of thumb is you want to have one chicken for every 2 square feet of space in your coop. Okay, so if you have basically 1 chicken for every 2 square feet, that they're going to be able to create enough warmth inside the coop to warm themselves up. Okay, so like last night, I put my hand in there because I think one of the eggs, I can see an egg laying on the ground there. I reached in to grab an egg. I mean, I think it was something like 28 degrees outside. As soon as I put my hand in there, it felt like I put my hand in like in a steam room almost, right? It was really hot in there from having 50 chickens in there, creating creating heat amongst themselves. So one chicken for every 2 square feet. If you don't have enough chickens, what you do is you just throw in a hay bale, right? Because that's gonna reduce the amount of space in there, right? There'll be less air in there. So you just throw in enough hay bales to reduce the space to match up to the number of chickens you have. Now, as far as eggs, yeah, chickens lay less eggs in the wintertime. So basically, I've got 50 chickens. I mean, some of them are roosters, some of them are ducks. Ducks generally don't lay eggs in the wintertime. They lay big fat ones in the summertime. But in the wintertime, you pretty much got to have at least 30 hens if you want to be able to eat. If you want to have somewhere between, if you want to be sure you got at least 6 eggs every day, because hens don't lay every day, right? You got to have at least 30 hens to make sure you got enough eggs, because otherwise you're going to end up, even with, if you only got like 12 hens, good chance you're going to end up buying eggs, because in the wintertime they slow down, the laying, which makes sense because chicks that hatch in the wintertime usually don't have a good chance of surviving. But anyway, that's the main thing I want to talk to you guys today. Best way to water your chickens throughout the winter is with a large kiddie pool, and just get these electric heaters, just dump it in there. I just leave them in there all winter. Once the temperature goes below into the teens, I put the big one that you see here, and that's it. Now, one of the things you should want to be aware when you buy this, if they give you an extended warranty, get the extended warranty. Like these, I get them with a 2-year warranty. Just make sure you can return it to the store that you bought it from, because these do go bad. Okay, they do go bad. You're lucky if you get a year out of these. So I buy them with the extended warranty, and I just basically take them back to the store, swap them out. If it stops working, it's probably the heater. It's not your lines. It's probably not your outlets or anything like that. Although that can also go bad. But these things do go bad. So get them with the extended warranties. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I should tell you guys? I think that's about it. If you got any questions, put them down in the comment section below. If you're not a member of my channel, subscribe, hit that bell button so you get the notifications. I'll talk to you guys soon.